Hi, everybody. So this is really exciting. We are here to do a first episode of a new podcast that my friend AJ and I are going to start, where we are going to be looking at sort of forgotten films, underrated films, things like that. And we'll probably try to do it once a month or so, but we'll see. And we are starting this month with a really fun film that I really like. That we're going to talk about the full name is Sesame Street Presents Follow That Bird. But Follow That Bird, it's a Big Bird movie. We're going to talk about it. It's going to be fun. So, AJ, do you want to introduce yourself? It's been a while since I guess you were on Cars 3 last time. Talking Cars 3.
Yes, that's right. Well, hi, everybody. I'm AJ. Let's see. What can I say about myself? I'm a writer, a film critic. I write for rotoscopers.com with Rachel about animated movies and TV shows and things like that. And I also write on my own blog, The Vintage Vestibule, just reviewing movies, whatever movie I feel like reviewing at any given time. And,
nice.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have the links up for that in the description section. So Follow That Bird. Like you said, this is the Big Bird movie. What were your kind of overall thoughts after you saw this movie?
I thought it was really good. Like, I admired it for, I don't know, it's something that we hear a lot lately, and sometimes it's used in a derogatory way, but I felt like it was a really good, genuine family film. It was a movie that was made both with the kids in mind and adults in mind, but not in a way that like it was trying to force itself.
Yeah.
It constructed a story that anybody could relate to, and it was able to enter jokes that for kids and the adults in a very natural way. It didn't feel forced at all.
Yeah, it's not like tawdry. There's not much like wink kind of humor that is for the adults. I mean, I'd say even like the original Muppet movie, which I love, has more of that kind of winky humor than this does. This is definitely I think geared. I mean, it's a Sesame Street movie, so it kind of makes sense that it would be geared towards children. But I think it has enough in there to for parents to enjoy, and I think they'll enjoy just the nostalgia of Big Bird, and, somebody that we've all grown up with at this point.
Yeah.
So this movie was released in 1985, and it stars Carol Spinney as Big Bird, and there's a great little documentary about Carol Spinney. That's actually a man, Carol, and he's still plays Big Bird to this day, and it's pretty interesting. Like, they talk about it's called, I can't remember what the documentary is called, but anyway, I think it's on Netflix. You can watch this documentary about him, and he to be Big Bird, he has to, the puppetry, it works out that he basically has to like perform with his hand in the air in order to work the puppetry.
Like the mouth and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm.
Or
yeah, his hand is like in there. Can you imagine? Like, seriously, if I do that for like a minute, my hand is like sore. I mean,
Yeah.
it seems like, oh, that's so easy, but it's actually like hard to just. I can't even imagine how he does that. And he has like I guess a little vocal box, a little speaker kind of thing that he talks into in the lower part of the suit, and so he's able to be Big Bird. He also is the voice of, or the puppeteer of, behind Oscar the Grouch, and so I think that's part of the reason why this movie starts out with an Oscar the Grouch song, is because I think that's sort of a little wink of like, since he plays both parts.
And other parts are about as different as two parts can get. On Sesame Street, completely different sensibilities entirely.
Yeah. And then you also have Jim Henson in this as Kermit and Ernie, Frank Oz as Bert, Grover, and Cookie Monster. And so those are probably the most famous names. And there's some cameos. You see Chevy Chase. You see some different cameos, and it definitely makes you feel good to see Big Bird as an adult. It just brings back that warm feeling, sort of nostalgia. And was it something for you? Were you a big Sesame Street watcher when you were a kid?
I did watch it when I was a kid. I wouldn't say I was like a huge fan. Like I didn't watch it every week, but I
Mm-hmm.
would just catch it just when I caught it.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, these characters are so, I guess, strongly drawn and iconic that I felt like I had grown up with them anyway. Like
Yeah.
Bird is somebody that everybody can recognize. And I was always a fan of Bert and Ernie and their kind of back and forth Abbott and Costello kind of routines that they had.
Yeah, me too. And I one of my favorite things, I watch it still to this day. Every Christmas I watch Christmas Eve on Sesame Street. And
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's so good. It's about Oscar tells Big Bird that Santa's not going to be able to fit down the chimney. And so he starts to worry that how's he going to fit down the chimney? And it's just really, really sweet and heartwarming. And then there's like this Gifted the Magi thing with Ernie and Bert that's really sweet. That um, Ernie sells his rubber ducky to buy a cigar box for Bert to store his paperclip collection, but Bert sells his paperclip collection to buy a soap dish for a rubber ducky. It's like, oh, it is really, really cute. So yeah, I do have fond memories of Sesame Street and of Big Bird. I think that in this 2000s, Big Bird has been kind of replaced by Elmo as sort of the most popular character of Sesame Street, but he was definitely the most popular character, certainly of the 80s, that's for sure, of Sesame Street. Is
Yeah,
almost fairly new.
yeah. Like he's in the movie Elmo, but he doesn't have any lines, and you see him for like half a second at the end of the movie.
Oh
Like
yeah,
a window. But
and that there's only one other Sesame Street film. Then that's The Adventures of Elmo in Grouchland. That's a feature film. And there we should probably, if people don't know, some people might not realize, but Jim Henson, of course, started with Sesame Street as far as the Muppets go, and that was sort of his in, and particularly Big Bird was one of the first things that he kind of sold to people, and then as a puppeteer, and then he branched out to the Muppets, and so Disney owns the Muppets. They do not own Sesame Street, and there's actual separate entities. So that's why there's only one movie that you can see, and Fraggle Rock is owned by another corporation. They're all sort of split up, and there's only one movie that you can. Now I can't remember the name of it, but it's a Christmas. There's one Christmas movie that has the Muppet Babies, it has Fraggle Rock, it has Sesame Street, and it has the regular Muppets. So it's very exciting.
yeah, that
And
must
Jim Henson has a cameo, but anyway, so that's why this is kind of unique. You don't see the Sesame Street Muppets all that often, certainly on the big screen compared to the regular Muppets.
man,
So
that Christmas special must be a nightmare to get the rights to try to put it on DVD or Blu-ray or something.
yeah, it really, really is, and yeah, it's hard to find. I wish I could remember. I wish I could remember that name anyway, but
Is it like a Christmas gift or something like that? Because I know I've heard of the special, I've never seen it, but
yeah, I could maybe
wasn't
look
it
it up.
like the last thing that Jim Henson worked on before he passed away, or one of
Yeah,
the last?
I think so. He does have a pretty long cameo in it, which is fun. And let me see if I can find it real quick here. That and Jim Henson. I often like to think about what it must have been, because now we all accept it. We all know it. We all the Muppets. That's just a thing. But can you imagine like what it must have been like for him to go into these studios and say, I want to make a show about a giant bird, with a giant bird and a pig that's in love with a frog. Like, they must have thought he was insane. And it's called A Muppet Family Christmas. That's what it's called. Yeah. And I think that they should totally make a movie about Jim Henson. He's just such an interesting character, interesting life. And, there's just not that many people in media that like literally invent basically like a whole franchise, a whole new way of storytelling, basically. Like, I mean, there's few things I think are as influential as Sesame Street. I mean, it touches almost every child in the world that has a TV watches Sesame Street. And it's pretty amazing in that regard. And I always liked sort of the gentleness of Sesame Street. It's very it's not one of those shows for kids that's which a lot of them are. And it's just very quiet and trying to sort of teach like very, very lovely little lessons, and it's funny, and it just hasn't gotten crass, which I really appreciate about it.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes so much of Jim Henson's work like keep on like stay strong, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he was always so sincere in everything that he did,
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
And sincere. Like, there is no sarcasm or anything in any of his work. Like, the jokes are witty, but they're not sarcastic.
Right. Yeah, that's really true, and I think that's true in this movie, that there's a genuine love and you can always tell when you're reading something or watching something when there's sort of a fondness for the characters and the people. Like, one of the things that I think is hard about watching a movie like Chicken Little is there's just sort of a underlying, you can tell that like people weren't happy making it, and you can tell it just has this sort of underlying disdain about it that just makes it sort of unpleasant, and so I don't know, when you get that sense of sort of affection for the characters, I think it goes a long way. And one of the great themes of this particular movie is about family and what family can be, and just how much everybody loves Big Bird and how much Big Bird loves everybody, and that's that just comes through, shining through. And so let's talk a little bit about the film. Like I said, it came in 1985. It was directed by Ken Kwapis, who would go on to do masterpieces like the Sister of the Traveling Pants series. And it actually got pretty good reviews when it came out, but it was a big bomb because it had a bunch of competition. It didn't do very well at the box office, but it starts out with this council of birds that are concerned about a bird not being with their own kind. And they find out it's the Feathered Friends Board of Birds. and the Madam Chair Bird is this lady named Miss Finch. And she's very concerned about the Big Bird isn't around other birds. And so she goes and she tells him that he can be adopted by this family, the Dodo family. And I have to say, until I saw this movie, I never really thought about the fact that like his actual name was Big.
Yeah.
that was his first name. That was so funny. And I never thought about the fact that he was 6 years old, because he's so big, and so you don't really think of him as like a child. But
that's true.
Yeah. So he ends up getting adopted by this family called the Dodo family. So now his new name is Big Dodo.
And I love his reaction when they tell him his new name. Or called Big Dodo.
Yeah. I thought that was great. And and I, it's just interesting because she says that when she introduces uh, when Big Bird introduces Miss Finch to Snuffy, she says, "Well, your best friend should be a bird because you're a bird." And so that's sort of a theme of kind of the movie, I think.
Yes, when they said that, I immediately thought of Land Before Time. Three horns never play with long necks. That's what I thought of like right away, and I was like, oh, it's the same kind of theme
Yeah.
of just togetherness, accepting diversity and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good comparison. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good one. And also, yeah, that we think that certain people, we won't have anything in common with them, or we won't like them, or whatever, and we can have this idea that we can only be with people who are sort of similar to us, or that believe the same things we do, or whatever. And but in reality, that's of course not the case. And so we do get some nice, there's some nice Kermit moments in here, and there's some nice, you really get to see a lot of the Sesame Street Muppets. You see Ernie and Bert, you see Oscar, Cookie Monster is in here, of course, and the Count. So you've got all of these characters, and they're all sad to see Big Bird going. He goes to the Finches, and they have a very different kind of life than you get at Sesame Street. What do you think of the Finches?
I thought they were hilarious. I thought any moment with them was hilarious.
Yeah.
like what stands
Or
out
the
to me,
Dodos, I should say. Sorry, the
yeah,
Dodos.
the Dodos, is when he tried to teach Donnie and Marie an obvious pop culture reference.
Yeah.
Teach them how to make believe. That was a moment that actually made me laugh out loud.
Yeah, that
like,
was fun.
Okay, I'll pretend I'm Donnie. I'll pretend I'm Marie.
Yeah. That was
like
really good.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that was really funny. Yeah, that was good. And just you can just tell that he's just such a fish out of water. He just doesn't belong there. They did a good job with that.
Yeah. And it's just that moment when they make believe is like one of the few moments where you actually see Big Bird like kind of make a reaction that's usually out of character. He kind of rolls his eyes.
Yeah.
It's like, okay then.
Yeah, and it's not like they're being mean. They're being perfectly nice, but they're just not. It's not his home. It's not where he belongs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he ends up getting a card from Snuffy, and he decides, I'm done. I don't like it here. He says, well, it only took me 3 hours to get there on plane, so I can walk in 4 hours.
Yeah.
So he starts out. And that's where the rest of the movie becomes this kind of big search for Big Bird, because you have Mrs. Finch who's looking for him, and then you have all of the members of Sesame Street that all go in different vehicles and cars and stuff. And then you also have these, I think they're called Mr. Sleaze.
Yeah, the Sleaze brothers.
The Sleaze brothers, yeah, that are out to use Big Bird as like a carnival trick, kind of. And so these different people are all looking for him, trying to find him, and that's kind of where our movie starts in a way. That's sort of the first act, and we get a nice little song. There is some music in here, and we get a nice little song from Waylon Jennings called "Ain't No Road Too Long." What do you think of that?
I thought it was really good. That's probably my favorite song in the movie. And when he started singing, I didn't realize it was Waylon Jennings. When we first saw him, like, well, that guy's a really good singer. I wonder who that is. And so I paused and was like, oh, Waylon Jennings. That explains why he's such a good singer.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing too. I'm like, oh, he must be somebody famous.
But yeah, it's neat to see also how good a chemistry he and Big Bird have together, you know? Just the way they bounce off each other. Where it's like, oh, I'll get there in 4 hours. 4 hours. More like 4 weeks, buddy. Just stuff like that. Just very easy. Just the way they...
In Big Bird, it just seems like the character, you just want to give him a hug. He just seems so great. And I don't know, just a very loving character.
Yeah.
And so it just, it's one of those things you could hardly imagine anybody not liking Big Bird, but of course you got these bad guys who are are going to be doing bad things. But you got these different groupings. You have Ernie and Bert in their plane, and there was a pretty funny little sort of, I think, parody, I guess, of North by Northwest with them in the plane and coming down, and Big Bird's like, ah. That was, I thought, funny. And they actually, what is their song called? They Upside Down World. They sing a song, Upside Down World, Ernie and Bert. And I'm like you. I love Ernie and Bert. I think that they are great. They're so fun.
Like
Yeah.
even that first moment when they show how they're going to travel, when you just see him pass outside the window, are you sure you know how to fly a plane? Or he's like, hey, don't worry about it. Like, I'm not sure about this.
Yeah. Well, and Ernie's like, it's like, here, you fly now. And Bert's like, what?
Like, I'll trade places with you.
Yeah. He's like, it's easy. We also get, I think it's Maria and Oscar that are in the car together, and they end up going to the Grouch Diner. What do you think of that?
Oh, yeah. And the sloppy jalopy to the Grouch Diner.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, sloppy jalopy. That was pretty funny.
I did like that. I did like that sequence. Very slapstick.
Yeah.
That's what I like about it. I just love how you're like, they go through like all these really nasty sounding stuff. What is it like? I can't remember, roast beef or something with maraschino cherries on top.
Yeah.
It's like, a tossed salad. Okay, I'll just have that.
Yeah, so she orders the tossed salad, and it's literally like in a
like a catapult.
Yeah, a catapult. That's a catapult of salad is just like thrown in her face, and so of course Oscar's having the time of his life here. But yeah, they have really zany, weird combinations of it's like pork with gravy and maraschino cherries or something like that. Gross. That was fun.
Does the tossed salad have like marshmallow sauce or something on it? And we're just like, what are you, some kind of nut?
Yeah, right. It's kind of weird. And so, okay, let's see. You do get Snuffy and Big Bird, Olivia. They sing a song called "One Little Star," and it's a sweet little song, Sesame Street kind of song, and I liked it when Big Bird says, "I wish Snuffy was here, then I'd be lost with my best friend." It's like,
yeah.
So much of this movie, I was just like, that's so sweet. It's so sweet. And I'm sure somebody that's like really cynical would be like, could tear this movie apart, but I thought it was really sweet. And so okay, let's see what else here. Okay, then he ends up getting bird napped, as they say, by the Sleaze brothers, and they're of course up to no good, and they end up painting him blue or whatever, and he sings the song "I'm So Blue."
Yeah. And that seems to be the thing that people remember most about the movie, because I read like a bunch of articles that I had found, and everybody mentions that scene where they try to pass him off as the bluebird of happiness, even though he's obviously not happy.
The bluebird of happiness. Yeah, it's like the saddest song ever. I'm so blue. Oh, he does a great job there. Carol Spinney, he does a really good job in this movie of playing Big Bird and getting all those different emotions and just in his vocal work and the other things he does, I think.
Yeah, he does.
He's great. And okay, so let's see here. And you get this little scene where Cookie, Count, Maria, Susan, and Telly all they have this like big thing of keys, and they're trying to get in there to free Big Bird, and it's a pretty tense little moment, and then he ends up driving away, and and so there's some more like cat and mouse kind of chases between all of them, and they finally end up getting back to Sesame Street, and the Mrs. Finch shows up, and they finally say to her, like, we're happy here. This is where Big Bird belongs, and we've got all kinds of different, and they go through all the different types. There's like the honkers and the things different types on Sesame Street, and and she finally relents and says, "Okay, I'll be fine."
Yeah.
And so that it's not that long of a movie. It's 91 minutes. But it's just really pleasant and really sweet, and I think got enough in there for adults to enjoy it, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I liked about it is how every one of the characters kind of got their own moment to be funny, Like
Yeah.
it's kind of their own special scene, even if it was a moment in the song. Because I was thinking of the Count, his part of the song, the Ain't No Road Too Long, where he's driving down the road in his little Count mobile with the wings on the side.
Yeah.
Talking about how he's loving traveling. He's like, and you can even count the telephone poles on your way.
Yeah. Well, and I liked how Cookie was like eating Maria's car. Like, that was funny.
It's like, I'm a growing monster. I have to eat something.
I love Cookie Monster. Oh, and then you had Super Grover. He had an appearance that was really cute. And I love Grover too. I love all these characters. I just have a softness for them, a soft spot for them. And this is just really gentle and really sweet, and really well done. I don't think it's just a nostalgia thing. I think this is just, it holds up as just an entertaining, sweet little movie.
Yeah.
So
it does.
It makes you sad that it didn't do better, and then we could have gotten more Big Bird movies. But it's got to be a grueling thing for Carol to do a feature film. It's got to be really hard. And he, I don't know if it was him, but the Sesame Street Muppets performed with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir a couple of years ago. And I mean, I just can't imagine for a whole concert, whether it was him or whether it was his understudy, I can't imagine for 2 hours holding your hand up like that. Like, oh my gosh, that would hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like, especially acting, like when you're trying to focus on getting into character and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna think of me. I just be focused on my arm hurts. Yeah. My arm down now, please.
And getting like all that personality and all that thing. And one of the cool things about that documentary is that it's just really heartwarming to see somebody that has found something that they love to do and found sort of their role in the world, their little kind of part to play. Yeah. And so, because I'm always fascinated by work and really not just him, but also his wife is is also like, has basically the two of them have kind of devoted their lives to this character, really, of making children happy. For Big Bird, it's called "I Am Big Bird: The Carol Spinney Story." Is the documentary? That's what it's called. I Am Big Bird. But anyway, it was just pretty neat, and it did have some, I think, some decent little laughs that you had in there. I would say it's not quite as funny as some of the Muppet movies, but it's made for small children, so it kind of makes sense.
One side note about the Muppet movie, there is two things actually just now I was thinking about regarding that. I think what you said about devoting your lives to making people happy, I feel like that's what all the Muppet movies have at their core. Mm-hmm. Just to make people happy, brighten their day. And Kermit actually says that in the Muppet movie. That's how he decides to leave for Hollywood. Or the swamp. He's like, well, I miss this old swamp, but millions of people happy,
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. They're trying to bring joy into people's lives, and I mean, I think that's why the I think that's why Oscar the Grouch works so well, because he's the counterbalance to all that joy and happiness or whatever. And in the regular Muppets, you have the two grumpy guys. I can't think of their names.
Statler and Waldorf.
Yes, so
Yeah.
they're sort of the Oscar the Grouch of the regular Muppets. So
the other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you have a favorite Muppet? Is this your favorite?
Of all of them, I don't know. Probably, I like Rolf a lot of the other Muppets.
Oh yeah.
But of the Sesame Street Muppets, I actually do kind of like Oscar because he's not really a bad guy. It's just very cantankerous. He's just so different from the others that he just stands out.
Yeah, he's great. You need that balance. You need that counterbalance. I don't know. I think of the regular Muppets. I don't know. I think I got to go with Miss Piggy is probably my favorite because she's so hilarious. And but in the Sesame Street, I don't know. I think Big Bird probably is my favorite because he just symbolizes love and he symbolizes kindness and so he's probably. But I do love Kurt. I love him. I love them all. How can you decide?
Yeah.
So great.
One more thing I did want to mention about just the regular Muppets and the Sesame Street Muppets. Any shot that we had where they showed Big Bird walking down the street, I always thought for a second of that one joke in the Muppet movie where they come across Big Bird walking down the road and they offer to give him a ride.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to go to Hollywood? Oh, no, thanks. I'm on my way to New York City to try to break into public television.
That's true. Forgot about that. And then Frank Oz is so brilliant too. We gotta mention him. I mean, he still to this day does most of these voices. I think there was one that he did. Maybe this last one that he didn't do the voices. But anyway, he's just amazing. He, like you said, Bert, Grover, Cookie Monster. I mean, he's done, of course, Yoda. There's a million other voices that Frank Oz has done. So he's just incredibly talented man. And
it's neat to hear like their own individual styles, like Jim Henson and Frank Oz's styles, as you come to learn which characters they voiced. You know, because Jim Henson voiced, right off the top of my head, Kermit and Ernie, and they both kind of have the same, not exactly the same personality, but kind of similar, just kind of friendly and
yeah.
and just,
it's true. And I also like, this is just totally random, but when they're like, we have all types here, and they're like, I don't know why it made me laugh when they're like, we have a cow, and then they show the cow. And I don't know why I thought that was really funny.
It's like, yeah, you sure do. Where they got that
right. So yeah. Anyway, they had a big, like I said, a big cast of performers, and they're just all so talented that they do a great job. And so I haven't. I was kind of disappointed in the last Muppet movie. I didn't really like it that much because for me, it didn't have enough Muppets in it. It was too much about the boring humans, and that's one thing that the good Muppet movies get right is they make it about the Muppets, and those are the characters that I like. So I think they do a good job on this one. And like I said, just that underlining message of love and acceptance, and that a family can be it can be all different types, all different ways, and and that we should love people, all different kinds of people. I think that's great. So,
yeah. And I love how they really sell that family notion, because it could have been really easy, like an easy trap to fall into, where the puppets would have just seemed like an appendage almost, like the Muppets, depending on how the humans interacted with them. But I actually feel like the most emotional moment in the movie for me wasn't the one where Big Bird is singing "I'm So Blue," but the one where he's about to leave. And they're like, you don't have to leave if you don't want to. The humans, like, we're already a family and we all care about you.
Yeah.
But if you want to leave, if you want to give it a try, then we'll stand by you. That was the saddest moment for me. And I think
Yeah.
it's partly because the actors really sell that they really do care about these Muppets, you know.
Yeah, I remember Michael Caine saying that the key to working on a Muppet movie, because he did Christmas Carol, of course, is that you guys had to treat them like any other actor that they were there, and that they do a great job. I mean, there's nobody in the world better in interacting with the Sesame Street with the Muppets than Sesame Street adults. They are masters at it, and I mean, some of them are still working on the show to this day. I know Maria she's still on there. There was a bit of a shakeup last year when it was sold to HBO, the
Uh-huh.
show, that they said that some of them were getting fired, but it actually proved to not be true, that they're just moving from like full time to being more like supporting roles kind of thing, but they weren't like getting fired. But still, like Bob McGrath, he was on there forever. I'm not sure who's actually on there now, but I know Maria is, and yeah, but they had Roscoe Orman as Gordon was on there forever. They just had this same group of adults who were there for many, 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 many years. So you can just tell that, like, and so there's that comfort level and that believability that there's not this idea of like sometimes when there's celebrities on Sesame Street,
Uh-huh.
you can tell they're kind of giggling at the puppeteer down below and not taking it that seriously.
Yeah.
But you definitely don't get that with these professionals.
Yeah. And it's
It's
interesting. Oh, sorry. Sorry.
you're good. You're good.
Um, I was actually just reading an article, kind of a halfway interview with the director of Follow That Bird earlier today, and he was talking about how this was not only like his first movie out of film school, apparently, but Jim Henson, after he interviewed him and said, "You know what? I want you to direct this movie." He said, "But I don't know how to direct a movie with a puppet. I don't know how to direct a puppet, you know." And
And he did a great
Jim Henson
job.
said basically what you said is like, yeah. And he said that the secret was what Jim Henson told him was like, just talk to the puppeteers like you would any other actor. That's how you that's how you direct a Muppet movie. Don't treat the puppeteers like they're different because they're actors just like the other actors are. Just interact with
Yeah.
them in the same way. And one thing I thought was really cool that he brought to it was that he wanted to make it feel big. He wanted to make it feel different than the TV show because this was a feature film, and he really wanted to take advantage of that. So I like how they kind of redid Sesame Street from the movie to make it look more like a real city street, you know,
Yeah.
and then and
That's a
just
good point.
picking them up to like these big, wide, open spaces, you know, like these fields and like these roads and stuff that actually look like the Muppets are out in these real places.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, it did feel pretty big, and it did feel it helped you feel that, oh my gosh, like Big Bird's really lost. Like there was a real sense because you see these long roads and these country roads and like I said, these big fields and those kinds of things, and there was, I think, something to even just like the props and the 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 setting of like when he's doing I'm blue, that just looked
Yeah.
a little bit more cinematic than you would typically see on Sesame Street, I think.
Yeah, and I think that contributes to one of the articles I read was on the AV Club. They wrote
Hmm.
about it, and they were saying that they were surprised, like they had forgotten how sad Follow That Bird can be at some points, you know, how melancholy it is. And they
Hmm.
talked specifically about the blue bird of happiness. I am blue scene.
Yeah.
And I think that realism is what contributes to that, what makes that happen, because it looks like the real world, you know?
Yeah. Well, and that's what great films for children can do, is tap into is take the children seriously and to treat them in an authentic, honest way. And if you think about Winnie the Pooh has honest emotions of childhood. It has Eeyore that's sad. It has uh, you know it has Tigger who's very enthusiastic, and it treats them in a honest way. It takes them seriously. It's not a joke. I'm talking about the original Winnie the Pooh movie in shorts, and as opposed to other stuff that just feels sort of crass. It feels like it's sort of, I don't know, just throwing out toilet humor. It's throwing out. There's not that heart kind of behind it. It just feels more like, oh, here's what we think
Yeah.
kids like, as opposed to if you look at the Pete Docter films or some of the Pixar films or some of the early Disney films, they take childhood seriously. They really do, and I really appreciate that. One thing I love about a movie like Lilo and Stitch is that it challenges kids in many ways. Has a similar emotion. It has a similar message of family and ohana as this movie, but it challenges them, and it takes their emotions and their, like, the melancholy of childhood, which I think is a real thing. It takes it seriously, and I think you can see that here as well. And I love when Big Bird meets the little girl in the farm,
Uh-huh.
and they I think they have a song together, but he's so excited that they want to play with him, and he misses that so much at the dodos, is that sense of play and the sense of imagination, which I think is a great thing for kids. Like
Yeah.
we have too much like scheduled time with kids, and they're not free to just sort of imagine and play. Like, play is a good thing.
Yeah. Like the movies I kept going back to, like, as reference points for me as I was watching it.
Hmm.
Like, the Pixar movies are a really good example, especially the Pete
Yeah,
Docter movies, like Inside Out. But I kept thinking of, like, the Charlie Brown movies from, like, the
that's
late
another good example.
70s. Just very truthful and almost kind of muted in a way compared to
Yeah,
other movies that are made for kids. Like,
yeah,
so many of them had to feel like they had to be loud or hectic or something, and which is the opposite of what these movies we were talking about are.
yeah. Like a movie, I don't know, like the Minions or whatever, which you can have fun with, you can like it, that's fine. But like, it's not a movie that we're going to be talking about in 20 years and 30 years and whatever years. And it's the movies that, like My Neighbor Totoro or Winnie the Pooh, or these movies that are carefully made for children with authentic emotion, and that take them seriously. I think those are the movies. Wizard of Oz, movies like that, those are the ones that really last and are really special. And it is amazing how, I think, if you put on Follow That Bird, I still think the kids would be entertained by it and like it. It was really interesting. A couple of years ago, I was babysitting for these little girls, and my house is not that kid proof, and I don't have that much stuff for kids to do since I'm
Uh-huh.
single. And so we ended up watching movies almost the whole day, which is like, maybe not the best thing to do with kids all day, but I didn't have a whole lot to do anyway. And so and I was surprised because they really weren't that into Jungle Book. They didn't really like Jungle Book that much. And they really did like Frozen. They were really excited about Frozen. But the one that they loved the most, which surprised me, was Mickey Mouse. I put on Mickey Mouse, and it was like a Christmas. It wasn't Mickey's Christmas Carol, but it was like a House of Mouse, whatever, bunch of shorts with Mickey Mouse. They
Uh-huh.
loved Mickey Mouse. They just smiled, and I don't know. Something about certain things that are just timeless, and kids will, at any age, will like it.
Yeah.
So
I, I think, and this is not to get too far afield, I guess, stuff like Follow That Bird, but I was thinking about that. I think that's why pretty much any movie with kids of any age stands up. Like, I feel like these movies we're talking about are the equivalent of like the 80s John Hughes movies for teenagers, or like the Amblin E.T. movies for like preteens.
yeah,
They're all movies that look at kids not as like a joke
yeah,
or like something cute to just stick in the movie to bring audiences in. They're like, these kids have real issues and have things to think about.
Mm-hmm.
just like any adults do, and they deserve to be taken seriously in that same way. And that's what makes all of those movies last.
Right. I agree. All right. So uh, that is basically all I had in my notes. Did you have anything else you wanted to talk about with it?
You think? I guess just wanted to mention. Well, I guess we already mentioned Waylon Jennings. I was just thinking about the celebrity cameos and thinking
Mm-hmm.
about what they liked because I think they were used really well.
Yeah.
I think, except for I think the Chevy Chase one, some of the jokes felt kind of forced in his cameo,
Mm-hmm.
but I feel like the John Candy one was used really well at the very end or near the very end as
Yeah.
the cop, and then especially Waylon Jennings one where he just feels like that kind of character, like a turkey rancher, and
Yeah. It
and
was
I like
almost.
how the movie just doesn't feel the need to. Sorry.
Sorry, you're breaking up for some reason a little bit.
Hmm.
Are you there? Okay. Yeah, I also it's
Um,
sort of fun. You get little cameos of
I'm still
the
here.
puppeteers. You see Jim Henson at a certain point in the diner, I think it is. You see Carol Spinney. He plays a trash man. So that's sort of fun. There's little. He's Bruno the trash man, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So, all
And I
right.
love how the movie doesn't feel the need to. Oh, sorry.
No, I just
Just one
since
more
we're
thing I wanted to mention before
yeah, please.
Okay. I just wanted to mention that the movie doesn't feel the need to explain everything. So there's certain things that we don't worry about that we might otherwise. Like somebody said in the article, again, Waylon Jennings, like, why is he driving a truck with a cab so big that Bigfoot could sit in it without any trouble?
Yeah.
But you don't think about that while you're watching the movie because the movie doesn't worry about it.
Well, I thought about that too. That's like, what are they going to do if they find, if Ernie and Bert find Big Bird with that two-person plane?
Yeah.
How are they going to be able to help them? What are they going to do? So, yeah, you're right. It's true. They don't waste time kind of explaining how Big Bird even fits into the dodo's house.
Yeah.
How does that work? But because it doesn't matter. You have some suspension of disbelief, I guess.
Yeah.
with this film. So yeah, that's good. That's good. I'm glad you were able to find. I should have done more research, but it sounds like people are talking about this movie a little bit. You found some articles and stuff, so that makes me happy that
Yeah.
it's people are still talking about it because I do think it's underrated. It's just a really sweet, lovely little film. So,
It is.
all right. Well, where can people find you?
Well, you can find me. But probably the most reliable place right now is the vintagevestibule.wordpress.com, which is my personal blog. Um,
Great.
hopefully more often at rotoscopers.com. I've kind of taken an unofficial leave of absence from writing there, but I want to get back into it. So hopefully there more often soon.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on social media and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. And I just posted on my YouTube channel my review of the Net Job 2, and that might surprise you what I thought about that. So check that out, and we should I have some hopefully some more podcasts coming up in the next couple of weeks, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. We did have a podcast this week with my friend Christine where we talked about a wonderful anime film called The Silent Voice that's really powerful, and you should check that out. And you should check out that movie. It's really, really, really good. So that is my sort of thoughts on Follow That Bird. This was so fun to talk about it with you. I appreciate it. And we will figure out what we want to talk about next month, and we'll let you all know.
Yeah.
Thanks again, and we'll talk next month.
All right, sounds good.